The cameras clicked. Laughter echoed through the marble courtyard. My heels wobbled slightly on the uneven stone, but I kept walking, head high, breath steady. Then I saw them, my parents, arms folded, my sisters with their judgmental smirks, standing right at the grand entrance of my brother's wedding venue. My mother's eyes ran down my figure like a scanner. Then she scoffed. "That cheap thing you're wearing? You're an embarrassment. Turn around, Eva. You don't deserve to be here." They didn't know who was walking in behind me. The sky was clear above the Astoria estate, an opulent, over-decorated mansion hired just for the occasion. Silk-draped gazebos sparkled with fairy lights even though it was still late afternoon. The media was already arriving. Local influencers were doing selfies in front of the floral arch, and a violinist played something elegant in the distance. And I was just frozen there, feet planted in front of my own family who now acted like security guards instead of relatives. "Eva," my father said, his voice razor-sharp, "this is not a thrift store gathering. This is Alexander's wedding. Don't humiliate us." I was wearing a simple, navy blue wrap dress. Not designer. Not trending on Instagram. Just something I bought with my own hard-earned money, tailored to fit me, not to impress anyone. My sisters were clad in shimmering gold gowns that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I swallowed. I could feel my chest tighten, but I refused to cry, not in front of them. "Dad," I said softly. "I'm his sister. I'm your daughter. I came here to celebrate." "Celebrate?" My oldest sister, Amelia, laughed. "You look like the help. Don't be ridiculous." My other sister, Claudia, added with a nasty grin. "Don't worry, Eva. Maybe you can serve drinks inside. That dress is perfect for it." A few guests near the entrance turned to watch. I could hear whispers. I felt like I was shrinking, getting smaller and smaller by the second. My hands curled into fists inside my purse. "Please," I said, trying to keep my voice from breaking. "This is Alex's big day. I'm not here to cause anything." "You already did," my mother snapped. "Look at you. You don't belong here, Eva. You've always been the odd one. The plain one. The one who chose to work with books and children instead of building a name. And now you've shown up to a high society wedding looking like that? People will think we dragged you out of a thrift bin. Step aside." My heart shattered. But then everything changed. A calm, low voice cut through the tension like a knife. "Excuse me." All heads turned. He walked up the stone steps slowly, but with a grace and power that instantly drew every gaze. Black tuxedo, polished shoes, crisp white shirt, strong jawline, hair slightly tousled by the breeze. He looked like he'd stepped out of a Vogue cover, but he wasn't arrogant. His presence didn't scream money. It whispered control. And he came straight to me. "Eva," he said gently, touching my arm. "Are you okay?" My father stepped forward. "Who are you?" "This is private. Please leave." That's when the corners of his mouth lifted into a polite but chilling smile. He reached into his inner coat pocket and pulled out something. A black card. A single gesture, almost casual, as he handed it to the nearest wedding coordinator. "I'm not here by accident," he said. "My name is Adrian Kalin. I believe I'm listed as a +1 for her." My sister stared at him as if struck by lightning. My mother's jaw fell slack. But it was my father's face that changed completely as the coordinator gasped softly and nearly dropped the card. You're that Adrian Kalin?" she whispered. The name echoed. Kalin Industries, one of the largest private tech empires in the country. And their CEO, Adrian Kalin, was not only elusive but intensely private. No photos on social media. No interviews. Rumors swirled about his fortune, but nothing was confirmed until now. The coordinator stuttered. "Please come in, sir. You, both of you. You're more than welcome." And just like that, the rope separating the elite from the embarrassment was pulled away. Adrian turned to my father, still calm, still polite. "She didn't deserve to be here?" he asked quietly. "Interesting. Because in my eyes, she deserves everything." The silence was deafening. I could feel my parents' pride unraveling thread by thread. But Adrian wasn't done. He turned to me, gently brushing a strand of hair away from my face. "I told you they wouldn't understand your worth," he whispered. "But I came anyway, because I want the world to see it." Then he offered me his arm, and I took it. As we stepped through the entrance, leaving my family speechless and gaping behind us, I looked over my shoulder one last time. And that's when Adrian said it, softly, but loud enough for my father to hear. "By the way, Eva's going to be co-chairing the next Kalen Foundation project. So, the next time you try to shame her, make sure you're not asking for a grant from her first." My father's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. He just stood there, frozen, like a man who'd just realized he underestimated the wrong daughter. The grand ballroom was glowing with golden chandeliers and rose-colored light, but all I could feel was the heat of eyes on me, watching, whispering, speculating. My fingers clutched Adrian's arm just a little tighter, not out of fear, but disbelief. How did this man, this untouchable, mysterious billionaire, choose me? And why now, of all days? As we walked in together, heads turned, conversations halted. But it wasn't until Adrian stepped onto the stage and asked for the microphone that everything truly exploded. We didn't sit at the back. We didn't linger in the shadows. The wedding coordinator personally led us to a seat 2 rows from the bride and groom, right in view of everyone. She bent forward and whispered, "If you need anything, just nod." Adrian smiled kindly and nodded back. But I could feel it. That room was a furnace now. My sister's eyes were daggers. My mother was clutching her wine glass like she wanted it to shatter. My father, still outside, hadn't stepped in yet. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe shame welded his shoes to the marble. I took a breath, but it trembled on the way out. "Adrian, I didn't know you were coming. I thought." "I wasn't going to," he said, voice low. "But when you told me about this wedding, about how they treated you, something inside me snapped. I didn't want to ruin it for Alex." "You didn't," he said, gaze steady. "But they tried to ruin you. And I don't tolerate cruelty, especially not against someone who's only ever shown me kindness." My throat tightened. I blinked fast, refusing to cry here. He reached across and gently took my hand. "You're not invisible, Eva. Not to me. And after tonight, not to anyone else either." Just then, the MC announced the groom's entrance. My brother, Alex, dressed in a pristine white tuxedo, walked in hand with his radiant bride. People cheered. Music swelled. And for a moment, the attention shifted off us. But I saw the quick glance Alex gave me from the stage. He hesitated, his brow furrowed when he noticed who I was sitting with. Then he turned back, the moment passing. Dinner came next, then toasts. One by the bride's father. Then the maid of honor, Claudia. She stood in front of the glittering arch of roses and said with syrupy sweetness, "I just want to thank everyone who supported this beautiful couple and also thank our family for always setting the standard for elegance and class." I nearly choked on my water. "And of course, we know weddings are no place for bitterness or cheap drama," she added, her eyes sliding toward me with a venomous smile. Some people laughed softly. Adrian leaned in. "Give me 5 minutes." I blinked. "What?" "I just sent a text to the media department. Something's about to happen. You'll want to stay seated." Then he rose from his chair. The MC looked confused for a second before handing over the mic to Adrian. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a surprise toast from a very special guest." Adrian stepped up. Confident.
Calm.
Lethal in a suit. He didn't raise his voice.
Didn't need to.
"Good evening. I know most of you don't know me. I'm Adrian Kalen." Silence. Total silence. A ripple went through the crowd. Phones slid out of pockets. A woman gasped. Someone whispered, "Is that the Kalen?" He nodded once, then continued. "I wasn't originally planning to speak tonight. But after what I witnessed at the entrance, after hearing how some family members were treated, I felt compelled." I froze. So did Claudia. "So let me be clear," Adrian continued. "Eva, my guest, my partner, my future, is the most valuable person I know. She's not wearing a designer label tonight. She didn't arrive in a luxury car. But she's more elegant than any person I've met in this room.
A gasp.
And just so you all understand, she's not just my date tonight. She'll be managing a $20 million youth literacy initiative under the Kalin Foundation. She'll be choosing who we partner with, what schools we sponsor, and which organizations we fund. Now people were really paying attention. And one more thing, he said gently. Anyone who thinks money defines worth, you're already bankrupt. He handed the mic back and returned to his seat beside me. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even breathe right. Tears spilled silently down my cheeks, but for once, they weren't from pain. Claudia sat down slowly, like her knees might give out. My mother whispered something urgently into her husband's phone, probably searching Adrian up. My sister Amelia looked like someone had thrown cold water over her perfectly styled curls. Then, slowly, my father entered. He scanned the room, found me, saw Adrian beside me, his eyes locked with mine, and for the first time in my life, he looked afraid to speak. Adrian leaned over. He's not angry. He's processing. That's what men like him do when the power dynamic flips. Quiet rage. Frozen pride. What do I do now? I whispered. Adrian gave a small, kind smile. Nothing. You've already done it. And I realized he was right. I didn't need to scream, fight, or beg for space anymore. I was the room. The music played, people danced, and champagne flowed, but none of it touched me. I sat with Adrian, my hand still in his, my thoughts racing. I felt seen for the first time in my life, but that spotlight burned. My family hadn't said a word yet, but I could feel them circling like wolves trying to find a way to recover from humiliation. Then I saw Alex, my brother, approaching with a tense look. What he said next pulled a string I didn't know was still attached to my heart. Eva, Alex said, stopping beside our table. Can we talk? Just you and me. Adrian gave me a quick glance, checking I was okay, but I nodded. We stepped out into the quiet hallway beside the ballroom. The music was muffled, but the tension wasn't. I folded my arms tightly, not to guard myself, but to keep from crumbling. I was still that girl who used to fix Alex's bow ties before school. Still the girl who helped him write his college application when no one else cared. And yet, until this moment, I didn't even know if I still mattered to him. I didn't know they said that stuff to you, Alex said softly. About the dress. About turning you away.
I didn't speak.
He sighed. I saw you out there for a second. I was caught up in things. That's the thing, I said, voice low. I'm always the one people forget until they need something. He looked hurt. That's not true. Isn't it? I stared at him. They laughed at me, Alex. Our sisters mocked me like I was dirt. Our parents told me I didn't deserve to be here. And you didn't say a word. He leaned back against the wall, guilt pulling down his shoulders. I'm sorry, he said finally. You didn't deserve that. I know I've been blind, Eva. You've always been the quiet one, the one who never made drama. But maybe that's why they thought they could walk over you. I let them. I whispered. No, he said, standing straighter. They just never saw your strength. I didn't expect the tears that stung my eyes again. I hated crying at this damn wedding. Eva, Alex said, his voice gentler now. That guy, Adrian, he loves you, doesn't he? I nodded slowly. He changed the way everyone looks at you tonight. But I hope you know you didn't need him to be important. You always were. That broke something in me. A wound that had been quietly bleeding for years finally began to close. I just wanted to matter to you, I said quietly. You always did. We hugged. For the first time in years, it felt real. But just as we pulled apart, I saw our mother standing at the end of the hallway. Her arms were folded, her expression unreadable, but her eyes, sharp, calculating, were locked on me. Eva, she said flatly, your father wants to speak with you. In private. I stared at her for a moment, then followed her down a narrow hall to a private lounge behind the venue. Adrian watched me from the doorway. I gave him a small nod to say I was okay. Inside, my father stood like a statue, a glass of scotch in his hand, untouched.
He didn't speak right away.
He stared out the window into the garden lights outside. Then finally, "Do you have any idea what you've done?" My chest tightened. "What I've done? You brought a man like that here and embarrassed your family." "I didn't embarrass anyone," I said firmly. "You did that all on your own." His jaw flexed. "Eva," he said, struggling to keep his composure, "we raised you with standards.
Discipline.
We expected a certain future for you." "No," I said coldly. "You expected me to disappear, to stay small, to be quiet while you poured money into Claudia and Amelia's dreams, while I worked 3 jobs just to survive."
He turned.
"What do you want from us? An apology?" I stood straighter.
No.
"I don't want your apology. I want your understanding."
He scoffed.
"You want to play powerful now that your boyfriend is rich?" I smiled. "I'm not playing anything. And he's not just rich. He's kind. He's the first person who's ever told me I mattered and meant it." My father blinked. "You really think you're above this family now?" I stepped closer, my voice quiet but sharp.
No.
"I'm not above anyone, but I'm done being beneath them." Silence. He lowered his gaze. For the first time in my life, he had nothing to say. That's when Adrian stepped into the room. "I hope I'm not interrupting," he said calmly. But Eva's needed at the reception. Her seat's at the head table now. My father stared at him. Adrian held his gaze. Then something strange happened. My father nodded. Not mockingly. Not with sarcasm. But like a man finally realizing the truth. That power wasn't in wealth or ego, but in the respect that Eva had earned without ever raising her voice. As I walked past him to leave, he said softly behind me, "You were always stronger than I gave you credit for." I didn't turn, but my heart did something strange. It healed. Just a little. I returned to the ballroom changed. Not by the dress, not by the spotlight, not even by Adrian's presence, but by the realization that I no longer needed their approval. But people weren't done with me yet. Claudia approached, heels sharp, eyes sharper, dragging her entitlement like a wedding veil. She wasn't ready to give up the spotlight, and she definitely wasn't ready to let me walk away loved, respected, and admired. What she said next was meant to ruin me, but instead, it revealed something that stunned the entire room. Claudia stood beside me like a serpent in satin. "You really think this is going to last, Eva?" she whispered. "That he's going to keep you once the novelty wears off?" I turned calmly. "You know what's funny, Claudia? I never once tried to compete with you. You all did that to yourselves." She flinched, but then she took 2 steps forward, onto the mini stage the DJ had used earlier, and grabbed the mic. "Hi everyone," she said, smiling sweetly. "I just want to say a few more words about family, since tonight has clearly become all about that." The crowd quieted. Adrian tensed. "I just want to remind everyone that some of us have earned our place here," Claudia continued, throwing a not-so-subtle glance my way. "And not because we walked in on the arm of a billionaire, but because we've worked hard, sacrificed, and upheld our family's name." Whispers began. Uneasy. "I'm proud of being a Bennett," she added, "even if others forgot their place." I stood, but Adrian caught my wrist gently. Then he whispered, "Now." I blinked.
Now.
He nodded toward the back of the room. A tall man in a headset stepped forward, handed something to the wedding coordinator, and within seconds, the projector screens lining the reception flickered to life. Everyone turned, then gasped. Footage began to play, of Eva teaching in a crowded schoolroom, of kids hugging her, of her staying late to tutor, of her organizing food drives, of her fundraising for literacy initiatives that were changing real lives. Tonight, a voiceover said, "We honor Eva Bennett, not just as the newest co-director of the Kalin Foundation, but as a woman who built her own path when others gave her none, who showed us that dignity doesn't come with labels, it comes with character." A pause. "And she's chosen to fund every underprivileged school in this city for the next 3 years, on her terms." When the footage ended, the room erupted. Applause.
Cheers.
Claudia looked like she'd been slapped by a wave of reality. She dropped the mic. Adrian stood, tugging me gently forward. We didn't say anything. We didn't need to.
People came to us now.
Respected us. Not because of status, but because the truth had finally drowned out the noise. We left the wedding early, not because we were unwelcome, but because we didn't need to stay to prove anything. The damage had been done. Or maybe something better. Maybe healing had begun. As Adrian's car pulled away from the venue, I looked out the window at the home I'd always known but never truly belonged to. And I realized something that changed everything. Revenge wasn't about making them suffer. It was about walking away so powerful they'd never forget who you became. The ride home was quiet at first. Then Adrian said, "I hope it wasn't too much." I turned, smiling. It was perfect. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart skipped. "Don't worry," he chuckled. "It's not that box. Yet." I opened it. Inside was a key. "To our new office," he said. "Your co-chair. Remember? We've got a foundation to build. A city to change. And I'm not doing it without you." Tears filled my eyes, but this time I let them fall. Because for once, they weren't born of pain. They were made of joy, redemption, and something more powerful than either.
Respect.
3 days later, I got a call. It was my father. "Eva," he said, voice hoarse. I just wanted to say I was wrong." "I know," I said simply. "I saw what you did. For the schools. For those kids. You didn't just build something for yourself. You became someone we can be proud of." That was all I needed. Not groveling. Not begging. Just acknowledgement. I hung up the phone and walked out to the garden where Adrian waited, barefoot in the grass, sipping tea, sun touching his hair like gold. He looked up, smiled. "Everything okay?" I nodded. "Better than okay."
And it was.
Because the girl in the cheap dress? She turned out to be the one with the richest heart of all. Not because she took revenge, but because she rose quietly and let the world fall to its knees on its own.